Hey guys, it's Stephen here. Welcome back to another video and back to another opposition preview. Manchester City, of course, play Southampton in the FA Cup this weekend. So I wanted to talk to someone who knew a little bit more about the Saints than me, introducing Mr. Sam Tighe of the Ranks FC podcast. How you doing, man? You good?
I'm great. Thank you, Stephen. How are you?
I'm very good. I like half the shirts behind you. You probably guess which one, actually. But are they signed, by the way? They are, aren't they?
They are indeed. Yeah, they are signed. I've got 3 signed shirts. It's done on a power ranking basis as to who gets onto the wall. Admittedly, only one of the 3 players is playing anywhere near well at the moment. So Grealish is obviously top. Grealish is top dog. Rashford is currently second by default because the 3rd signed shirt is actually 𝐿𝐿𝐴
he's
I haven't
not even
seen
a
play
footballer right now
for quite a while. There is another one kicking around. I've got a Thomas Muller shirt, but I haven't framed it, so I can't just pin it to the wall, can I? That'd be a bit budget.
You can. It's a Thomas Muller shirt, man. Of course you can. An absolute legend.
What I should do is just get my Arsenal gear and just frame it, and then we're good.
Just what you should do, actually. What you should do is just like kind of you get your signature and sign on the glass so you can rub it off when you get the actual signature. I'm sure you could copy it. I used to do that at school. I didn't, Mum, if you're watching. But you definitely could do that. And no one would even know. I wouldn't know. And it'd be better than the Rashford one, in my opinion. No. Anyway,
yeah.
Go on, what are you going to say?
I interviewed Rashford for when I used to work for Bleacher Report, and I went to his house and did like a full sort of day with him. So I got him to sign a shirt on the day. So it's a special memento for what is probably the highlight of my professional career in terms of out in the field.
Oh yeah, of course.
Interviewing footballers. So it is special to me anyway, even though I have no affiliation with United whatsoever.
No, Rashford's a great guy as well. I think that's pretty much universally accepted. And of course, in the news at the moment, some clips on Twitter. My personal take on that, if anyone cares, is you give out, get it back a little bit back every now and then. And I don't think he did anything wrong personally. He's just an upset man, going through a tough time. And even millionaire footballers can have tough times. Exactly. I think what it's worth, by the way, my take on the whole apology thing, who are those apologies for? Because the people who get those apologies are the ones who are being unreasonable demanding in the first place. They're never going to satiate them, are they? So I think these essentially, they're kind of pointless because it doesn't change anything. It just feeds into this idea of over-responsibility for the most tiny,
We're in a very strange position here, aren't we? Very strange area of over-apologising for little things. I even saw one from John Joe Shelby not long ago, just apologising for a slightly below par performance. I was like, dude, come on. Everyone drops a 5 out of 10 every now and then.
Well, that's the base level, man.
You don't have to do it. You don't have to do a graphic on that. That's ridiculous. We've gone way too far on that one. Never mind.
I already said, if I was a footballer, I would pin a tweet at the top at the start of the season saying, sorry for the time I missed this shot, sorry for the bad pass, sorry for this. Just really pithy response and just leave it there and always point to the sign. And that's what I'd do. And I'd be like, hey, I'm human. I had a bad day one day. But that's the point of football. That's why you're a team, isn't it? If one person has a 5 out of 10, the rest of them are there to pick up the slack. That's normal, But anyway, Sam, thank you so much for coming on. If you haven't already, go and check out, obviously, the Ranks FC podcast. It's a wonderful podcast. A lot more in-depth. And on YouTube as well, of course. Yeah, I'll put a link as well, obviously, in the description below, and it'll be on screen right now. We're going to talk about Southampton because Sam writes for the Southampton FC magazine. He pays a lot more attention than I do to Southampton, of course. And it's a team that Manchester City fans know a thing or two about. Of course, 2 draws this season in the Premier League. It hasn't been great. It hasn't been great for City this season. But what's the perception around the club, Sam, about Southampton this season? Currently sat in mid-table, of course, those 2 good results against Manchester City. What's the general feeling amongst the fan base and of the season so far?
Mate, they're delighted. Absolutely delighted. 10th place after 29 games, 35 points. Not even close to this disgusting-looking relegation battle that Watford, Burnley, Everton, Leeds, and even up until very recently, Brentford were involved in. The very fact that Southampton are nothing to do with that whatsoever, with 9 games to go, is an amazing achievement. And it has just made everybody so happy because Southampton were one of a few teams that entered this season, and I know that is, feels like a long time ago, mostly because it is. Football seasons they take a long time.
They never end, man.
They entered the season under a real cloud. They'd sold Danny Ings to Aston Villa. They'd sold Yannick Vestergaard to Leicester City. It had been probably the 3rd summer in a row in which they'd sold off one of their best or 2 of their best performers from the season before and not really replaced them with like-for-like quality because they were operating under an ownership that hadn't kind of informal, but also kind of formal £15 million maximum per player transfer spend. They weren't spending money. They were consistently making a profit, which is not how you improve as a football club. And they were not able to replace the players that they sold every year without fail with anyone that was remotely as good. And it happened again. How do you buy a player for 15 million quid who's anywhere near as good as Danny Ings? Like, it's just impossible. Like, you can't tell me that that's possible, because it's not.
No,
Vestergaard, like, look,
unless you get really lucky, you know what I mean? You have to get really lucky, don't you, basically, yeah.
You'd have to get extremely lucky. You have to take a big risk, and it has to pay off big time. And Vestergaard as well, like, look, he didn't have the greatest career for Southampton. He had 3 really good months at the beginning of last season. Apart from that, he was never really a great fit for Ralph Hasenhüttl's style of play, the high line, because he's such a lumbering guy. But he was a veteran presence. He was someone that had just got to the Euro 2020 semi-finals, and in a team that many were thinking were teetering on the edge of relegation. Losing a player or a presence, maybe more accurately, like that, can only be seen as a bad thing. So you lose your top goal scorer and arguably your best player in Danny Ings, and you lose a leader at the back. Where the hell does that leave you? And that's the cloud that Southampton kind of entered this season under. And I, along with a lot of the fans, were like, this could be it. Like, this
that was the perception. That's a fair feeling.
100%.
They were hovering around people's ideas of relegation candidates, and it wasn't unjust
100%.
once again because you lose 2 players of that quality, and mainly because as well, Southampton, they compared to some clubs, they don't have the resources, and they do lose the key players so often that at some point people were expecting just to fall through that trapdoor, weren't they? And so far. Pep must hate them is the best way I can put it, because they have been an absolute thorn in our side this season as a Manchester City fan, and you sort of dread playing them now if you're a certain kind of team. And what was it that you put those results against Manchester City down to? Was there anything particular that they did? Was it simply a case of their way works against our way? What was it? What was the cause of these results?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the Etihad draw, and I remember coming out of that thinking that Southampton actually just deserved to win it. They'd obviously be delighted with a point at the Etihad. I mean, who isn't delighted with that for the most part? But with the penalty being rescinded on VAR, which was very questionable, and just a really embattled and kind of heroic performance from so many of the players, it really felt like Southampton were worthy of 3 points, in my opinion, at least. And it came at a bit of a funny time. Again, it's amazing how long a football season is and how things change, because Southampton came into the season under the threat of relegation. Now they're sailing clear. At the time when Southampton put in that performance at the Etihad, which was, I thought, sensational, and I think most people would agree, they hadn't won a game this season. They just hadn't won. That's not the kind of performance you expect from a team who should be lacking in confidence because they haven't won a game. And it took them 7 games, I think, to win a game in the Premier League this season. They eventually stumbled over the line against Leeds in a very tense 1-0. But the City draw was right in the middle of this run of, when is this win coming? Like, when is it going to happen? When are they going to put in this performance that generates 3 points? It's amazing how far they've come. And on that day, I guess what they did really well was mix up a bit of the classic Southampton Ralph Hasenhüttl strategy of let's press the hell out of them, versus at the right time and during certain periods of the game, dropping off and removing space between the lines and just digging in when you absolutely have to. Yeah. And City failed to play through them, through the middle. They got forced wide, which is always, that's the goal, isn't it? I mean, the ball is less dangerous when it's wide rather than centrally. And when Southampton were given the opportunity, they pressed really wisely. The difference this season for Saints really has been they have picked and chosen their opportunities to press much more meticulously than they have done in previous years. They've been borderline reckless in previous years, and it has got them stung. It's got them stung. It has. They've played multiple games against Tottenham where they've conceded the exact same goal 4 times in the same half, and it's like, are you joking me? How does this keep happening? And there was a bit of a naivety, not just to Saints, but honestly to Hasenhüttl as well. And I think he has self-corrected in that area this season, and they have been much more reserved in certain parts of the game and not tried to play outrageous Red Bull pressing football for 90 minutes against the top sides or the bottom sides. And that tempering has done an awful lot for them. It really has. And in the big games in particular, against Tottenham, against Man United, against City, it's actually shone through in terms of results as well.
Well, they're not getting battered 9-0, each season anymore. So they're definitely obviously proved they're nowhere near as reckless,
Still time.
Like
It's still time.
There's still time. Well, yeah, maybe this weekend. That's what I want. But either way, I think it's fair to say they do look more mature is probably not the word, but there's definitely they do look a little bit like they're used to what Hasenhüttl wants more. The ideas feel more formulated, And once again, with a style of play like that, repetition is key, isn't it? It does become second nature. It doesn't, and I sometimes think as well, when you learn a new idea, you step away for a month or two, be it the summer break, it kind of helps. It settles in a little bit, doesn't it? It sinks in, you refresh, come back, and then you get the performances that have led to this season so far, and it's been really, really good. But on that note, performances. I'm looking at the recent results. A 2-1 loss at Watford at the weekend, of course, which is a bad loss for them. Doesn't ultimately matter given the position of the table, but 2-1 against Southampton before that. Two teams, to be fair to say, you probably need those points more than Southampton do, admittedly. But before that as well, 4-0 against Aston Villa. A brief, a little bit of respite against West Ham with a 3-1 victory in the cup, which of course leads to this game against Man City. The form hasn't been good recently. Is it? Are those scorelines been warranted? I've not paid attention to the actual games. Have they been playing as badly as it suggests?
The Villa game was obviously really bad. 4-0 says it all. They got pasted. It was a bit weird. No one really saw it coming. It was a bit of a blindsiding. But I guess people kind of chalked it up to, and I kind of do too, a team like Southampton with, it's a good team, but it's not a top 6 team. Eventually they're gonna lose a game, right? And it's gonna go wrong. And up until that point, Southampton's form in 2022 had been unbelievable, like absolutely sparkling. And for the entire calendar year up until that point, they basically either won or drew. And it was a bit of a shock to the system to lose 4-0, but ultimately a team like this cannot just continue to win or draw all the time. It's gonna lose. The 4-0 was a bit weird, but it is what it is. It's a youngish side. It's still finding itself a little bit. It's kind of newly acquainted with its own ability. It's gonna lose some games. The Newcastle one was pretty even, and they came out the wrong side of it. Lost to an amazing goal from Bruno Guimaraes as well, like the set piece goal. Then there's the Watford one. That's the problem. So the Villa one, you kind of excuse whatever. Newcastle, even game, came out the wrong side, fine margins. Watford, they actually just gave Watford the win. Like passing it around the back and making silly errors and being pounced upon. And actually, arguably, player of the season for Southampton this season, Mohamed Salisu, selling a back pass to his goalkeeper short and Watford pouncing on it and scoring to deliver that what was basically the killer goal. That was really sore. That was a tough one to take because he's been unbelievable this season. Salisu, he's been one of their major strengths. And I know you'll ask me later, who are the best players? And it's him. But he dropped an absolute stinker there. And I guess you want to get it out of the way when the league is safe or whatever, maybe rather than the cup. Hopefully that's the case. But a varied cast of issues there that have just kind of bitten them on the nose in the last sort of 2 to 3 weeks. But I mean, it's a shame that this game basically doesn't come 2 weeks before it does. Southampton would be heading into this really important game in much better form and with more confidence as well. That said, they are the kind of team that, like, on the day they'll just turn up, and because of James Ward-Prowse, they are technically capable of just pulling anything out of the bag at any one point because of a dead ball.
Yeah, of course. And on that note, essentially, Ward-Prowse, I guess you expect him to play. Are you expecting Southampton to take this seriously? And I'm not, you know what I mean by that in terms of, are they going for the FA Cup? Is there going to be a few changes in your opinion? Obviously, we've got the international break coming as well. Is it a case of this will just be their strongest side? They'll go for it given the previous Man City form and just rest up after that?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious answer is yes. But at the same time, and while the answer is still yes, the team that Ralph Hasenhüttl picked against West Ham in the 6th round was really heavily rotated to the point where actually it was quite amusing because they ended up winning and they played really well. And it was a rotated cast and they still did the business. Yeah,
I'm just looking at it now. This really is, isn't it? Huge changes.
Yeah. I mean, if Moussa Djenepo plays, it's a rotated side. That's basically the rule. Not that he's a bad player; he's just not in the first. He's not one of the first 11 names or whatever.
He sounded like a sick burn, then I was like, poor guy, but he generally did.
No, he's actually quite good. Ralph Rossi likes him because he works really hard defensively, so it is what it is. But yeah, so basically, what happened was on my timeline after that game on Twitter and the next morning, I saw a load of Southampton fans all tweeting, I hereby apologise to Ralph Hasenhüttl. He knows best. And they'd all done it as a joke because they'd all tweeted before the game, what the hell is this lineup? What the hell is this, Ralph? We're supposed to be taking the FA Cup seriously. This is the chance at silverware. And they'd all criticised him, and they won 3-1, and they played really well, and then they all apologised. So ultimately, Ralph knows best. I expect it to be a full-strength side. I expect it to be James Ward-Prowse and Oriol Romeu in the middle rather than anybody else. I expect it to be Armando Broja, if he's fit, and Che Adams and Salisu and Livramento and Kyle Walker-Peters. Like, it should be that. You never quite know. But at the end of the day, whatever Ralph picks is the right call.
What do you? I was going to ask you about personnel. I mean, you pretty much just covered that anyway. I mean, I want to talk about Hasenhüttl. You know, like he's liked. I think that's a very easy way of putting it. And I think he's earned that as well. He's a likable character. Obviously, got a very defined playing style. What do you think the future holds for him? You know, is there because obviously there's a well-trodden route for the likes of Pochettino, of course, there, you know, like people, ex-Southampton players and managers, they go far, you know, it's not necessarily unheard of. I mean, is the future potentially as bright for Ralph?
So sporadically, about every 6 months or so, we hear little murmurs that Hasenhüttl has made it onto Manchester United's latest shortlist, etc., etc. And look, to be fair to any top club, elite club, looking at Ralph Hasenhüttl, yeah, you're looking in the right place. The guy is a brilliant manager, no doubt about it. He's pulled off some absolute miracles in terms of keeping Southampton up over the years. Yeah, great. He has transformed certain players into, look at James Ward-Prowse. Before, and this was a long time ago, of course, it's over 3 years ago, but before Ralph Hasenhüttl got his hands on James Ward-Prowse, he was a meek, technically talented, but very meek midfielder who didn't really impact the game outside of crosses and set pieces. Now he's ratty, he's annoying, he's a pest. He keeps hacking away at people. He is awful to play against. Not only is he prodigiously talented and arguably the best set piece taker in world football, but he now has that grit to his game. And Ralph added that. And that's one of a number of different examples of him coming in and adding elements to different players. So as a man manager, he's fantastic. As a player development coach, he's fantastic. Tactically, he's been a touch flawed over the years because he's been so hell-bent on utilising his style when it hasn't really worked necessarily either with the personnel or the fitness or the congestion of fixtures or whatever it was. This year, he has relented a little bit and adjusted. So pretty much ticks all the boxes. The only problem now for other clubs, if they're looking at Ralph, is Southampton have basically given him like the keys, so to speak. Like, they know he's good. They're not idiots. And they've done everything they can to make sure that he is happy outside of just like, oh, we'll buy you excellent players, because they can't do that. So they've given him like total control over so many different areas that a modern head coach and manager just wouldn't ever really interact with. Very similar to what Guardiola has been allowed to do. Or maybe not Guardiola, but maybe 𝐿 or whoever it is at the top level has been able to do to your youth system and your youth teams and how they all play in certain ways and play in certain patterns, or I don't know if you've got like the half spaces painted on the other under 7 pitches or whatever it is. We've got a very similar situation happening at Southampton with their youth teams. So they're trying really hard to give him everything he wants. And he has said, like, on multiple occasions, like, I've got everything I want here. Sorry,
cat and shot. No, I love it. Well. Go for it. It's great. Obviously, a Hasenhüttl fan.
Yeah, huge fan. But he said, like, I've got everything I want here. I've got like basically total control. Why would I leave? Like, if I go to a top team, am I going to get this much control? No, obviously not. I'll be part of a machine. I'll be part of a team. I'll be given players. He's consulted on everything. And Southampton have played that card to try to make sure that he sticks around. We'll see if it's successful. I don't know. Has been so far.
I kind of hope he carries on succeeding. I just like him. I know that sounds really simple, but there are people in football that are likable and obviously talented. And when you get the mix of those two together, you want him to go far. And Hasenhüttl, it's weird. His personal rep is probably higher than some managers who were previously. It's probably even higher than Pochettino right now. That's probably not even fair, But in terms of his current, like, it probably isn't. But in terms of his current, trajectory, he's loved and liked, and they're doing good things to Southampton. Let's talk about the game directly a little bit. I'm not going to ask you to predict it. I don't think it's really fair, given the fact that you work for the club. But in general, has the fact that Southampton have had 2 good results against City this season, does that potentially play against them? If you know what I mean, because Pep Guardiola, fooling once, fooling twice, third time, it's difficult. Is this going to be, in your opinion, the hardest fixture out the 3 so far?
It's weird because obviously Southampton don't come into this fixture in a particularly good place. So
yeah.
you set that scene immediately. You haven't scored for 2 games, which, by the way, is a catastrophe. I mean, check the Richter scale. I don't think this has ever happened in history.
I just hide behind my cowboy hat when you talk about this kind of stuff.
I mean, you guys aren't coming into the fixture in a particularly good mental space either. Maybe
they must be confident, Southampton, mustn't they? Looking at our results at the moment, given the past history.
Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, if you ask *𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐿, he will always tell you that he would prefer to play Man City 38 times than Burnley, right? And that's not because he's a masochist. It's because he
just hates Burnley. You know what I mean?
He wants his
like
teams
Burnley, yeah.
to go out, and he wants his teams to be proactive and be aggressive and press. And he wants to sniff out those opportunities. Now, obviously, it comes with some inherent risk, and yes, he's got better at managing those games in mini periods this season. But first and foremost, he wants to have his team go out and assert themselves on teams. That is impossible if the opponent just punts it to Chris Wood. So he hates that game, right?
Yeah.
That game sucks. But the game in which Rodri and John Stones and Laporte recycle possession, that is a game that Southampton can go out and send their attackers out on certain pressing triggers and get them to attack the ball and attack certain scenarios. And look, whether or not they can convert those opportunities and make those turnovers into something special is always the question. And forever they will be limited by the fact that they do not have any world-class players in that area. But whenever you play Southampton, you will lose the ball 4 or 5 times in a dodgy area that you do not want to lose it in. And then it's about whether or not they can make that count with their quality. Traditionally, it's basically been no. But this season, with Che Adams playing really well and Armando Broja, brilliant.
Good player. Very good player.
Brilliant player.
He's going to top, isn't he?
Started to change a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I must say, I don't think I've seen a player improve as much as Broja has in the space of 5 months in my life. It is mad. He's like 50 times better than when he arrived. It's ridiculous.
Experience, eh? It's a hell of a drug, you know? And obviously he's got that dead-eyed look behind, which is a good thing for a striker. You know, he's a guy who looks like he knows exactly where he's going. Fearless as well, which obviously really, really, really matters. And you're right about the whole pressing. City at the moment, one of the main problems about City at the moment is they are too erratic for their own good. I mean, City have always been a team that absolutely hogs the ball, and they do that still. But we are giving the ball away sloppily. You know, there is a potential for Southampton to do what they've done against City before. And again, because I counted a few times, you know, against Palace where Laporte was sloppy on the ball, Cancelo was making very fundamental mistakes. As good as he is, you know, just pinging it straight off the pitch. That kind of stuff, or Laporte giving it away. Straight to Conor Gallagher, things like that. So I'm expecting Southampton to look at that and they'll be confident. You know, I think it's going to be a really good game. Actually, I feel like it could be a proper like FA Cup tie. It could be that both teams go for it. I'm expecting City as well to bring Gundogan personally. I feel like they'll just want his calm head here in the middle. But Sam, thank you so much, mate. It's been fascinating. It's been wonderful. It's been insightful. Guys, go check out, of course, Ranks FC on YouTube and, of course, on the podcast there. And go and give Sam a follow on Twitter if you haven't already. If you haven't, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? Sort it out. Sam, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you very much.
Oh, cheers for having me, mate.
No, it's great. And hopefully I'll see you on the live score watch along soon. But guys, thanks for watching this video. Follow Sam in all the links in the description below. Let me know your thoughts, of course, about the game against Southampton. I'll do my own preview tomorrow as well. In a bit, guys. Bye-bye.